And we welcome you to Conversations, a continuation thereof for the month of March. Conversations with Archbishop Joseph Kurtz. Archbishop, we are in the midst of Lent, the holy season of Lent, that time of the year in the church when we prepare for the great feast of Easter. It's also an exciting time because we are in the process of welcoming a lot of new Catholics on a faith journey.
Yeah. Read just the end of February, we had, of course, the first Sunday of Lent, and both on Saturday and Sunday, I had the rite of election, first at St. Patrick Church and then at our cathedral the next day. We have welcomed over 400
That's great.
Adults and young people. What a great and hope-filled time it is, so that in a sense, as these people being prepared to be received within the church, some being baptized, others being received into full communion, as they make their final journey, every one of us as Catholics renew our commitment. So it's a wonderful and rich time of the year, the season of Lent.
And the pillars of fasting, praying, and almsgiving are concrete ways that the Church invites all of us to as you said, we're all renewing our faith.
Hey, they're given to us by Jesus himself. And so each one of us renews. Now, this year, our Holy Father, he never disappoints me, by the way. Our Holy Father always seems to have a new angle, a new twist. He picks up on a verse of sacred Scripture from Hebrews. And let me read it. It's actually, for those who want to look it up, it's chapter 10, verse 24.
And we'll put it on the screen.
Okay. He says, "Let us be concerned for each other to stir a response in love and good works." And of course, this always begins in the Holy Eucharist. So if somebody says, where do I even start? Go to Mass. That's the first place to do that. But it's emphasis on concern for other people.
I find it interesting, that word concern in this verse, which in English can kind of seem lukewarm.
Yeah.
It's a nice word, but it can seem lukewarm. But in Scripture came from a Greek verb that Pope Benedict says means to be attentive, to observe, and to really enter into a relationship with others.
It does. It's almost like keep a watchful eye on others. And you know, we're in an increasingly privatized age where people don't care or think that they don't want to intrude on their neighbor, even on family members. And our Holy Father is saying that that is really misguided, that a concern for another person, which really is what should be the first step from our prayer, our fasting, and our almsgiving, to turn our mind to another person, is both from a physical viewpoint, to help people physically, but also spiritually, to call them to the fullness of truth. And in some case, I sometimes say to people, well, somebody who is a parent or who is a sponsor of somebody in baptism or confirmation, that they are also called to fraternal correction.
You know, we talk about the golden rule so much: treat others as you wish to be treated. And we all seek to help each other physically, but it is often difficult to help out or to speak out where the problem is a spiritual one.
Yeah, it is. And I think we're finding that, and we just had the interview with Father Pat with public policy, sometimes the correction that is needed spiritually is to public policies, not just to individuals, but to our government. What I learned in seminary, I'll never forget. And because, you know, sometimes there are some people who are just too eager to give fraternal correction. They can't wait to tell you what you're doing wrong. So in essence, I learned in seminary that there's always 3 steps. That if you see something that needs to be corrected, begin with prayer. Begin with prayer for the person who is involved, and this could be public policy, it could be a family member, but to begin in prayer. And in prayer, what is revealed is often who should be the person correcting and how should they do it. And that's the second part. And then the third part is being ready to give a helping hand. When we correct another person, we should be willing to help them change or be converted, and to do so in a way that also looks to ourselves, because we can't really correct someone else if we ourselves are not going to be correct. What did Jesus say about the people who talk about the little splinter in someone's eye when they have a plank in their own. Well, we need to be aware that the Lent is also a call for our own conversion.
Let's talk a little bit about this help and so on and so forth. And it's really it's a reciprocity.
Well, it is. It is. In fact, sometimes people will say, well, my mission is to help so-and-so. And they will often say almost instinctively, you know, in helping, I got more out of it than myself. I use the example, my dear brother, you've never met my brother George. George was 5 years older than I, had Down syndrome. After our mother died at the late 1989, I became the legal guardian for George, and that meant that I was to care for my brother George. Well, it didn't take me long to realize that I truly was benefiting where he was caring for me. And when I tell that story to others, Georgie died just 10 years ago. So we were together from when my mother died to when George died, there were 12 years. And in that time, I learned, I think, on a day-to-day basis, what many people who care for others learn, and that is that when you give to others, you're also receiving. And in fact, if you don't open yourself to receiving from others, your giving is not genuine. And people can tell that. When you're looking down on someone, we've learned that. We learn that whether it's Catholic Charities reaching out to others or St. Vincent de Paul, whether it's a family member helping another family member. What our Holy Father used that word mutuality or reciprocity. I know they're big words, but he basically is saying giving and receiving are two sides of the same coin called love. Giving and receiving. And sometimes we need in Lent to open our capacity to learn how to receive, to let others help us as part of the genuine part of the season of Lent. So conversion is that opportunity of, yes, of taking care of others, but also allowing others to care for us. We need, that's church at its best.
You know, that's some good things to think about during the Lenten season.
Yeah.
It really is. It's a good Lenten message. Archbishop, the time goes rapidly.
Reed, thank you. I've enjoyed being here for the March edition.
Indeed. April is coming up, and we'll be back for April. As always, we're glad you're here, whether it's via podcast, whether it's via television or radio or whatever means. We're glad you're here, and we want your feedback. Make sure we hear from you. We show you the ways you can via Twitter or email. Stay in touch with us. In the meantime, thank you for joining us on this edition of Conversations with Archbishop Joseph Kurtz.